For the Investing News Network from MJBiz International in Toronto, I'm Brian McGovern, here today with Jason Vegotsky, the President and Chief Revenue Officer for KushCo Holdings. Jason, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Brian.
So, Jason, let's take a quick overview at KushCo so far the year. Obviously, you guys are still growing and still operating. What's kind of been some of the takeaways that you've seen so far in the year operating, and some of the things that you're looking forward as we get into the second half?
Yeah, so our fiscal just ended August 31st, so I feel like I can breathe a sigh of relief here. This is a nice week for me. In our calendar, we're now, ready to do a push for fiscal 20. And when we look back at 19, and we haven't reported on our last quarter, but it's been a huge transition year. I mean, obviously, huge top-line revenue growth, but more importantly, I look at our operation, right? And everybody noticed we had some margin decline throughout the year, but that was really because we had to get our operation back up to speed to be able to handle the influx of revenue. And I'm happy to say that Rodrigo, our COO, has done an amazing job, and our operation now is not only extremely efficient, but it's set up to scale from a 100 to a 200 to a 500 to $1 billion in revenue company. So for us, the transformation of the operation is now going to allow fiscal 20 to have way more success and have way less hiccups.
When it comes to KushCo, you guys have certainly grabbed this segment of the market when it comes to the packaging and the accessories and ancillary play as well, in terms of any new companies or any companies looking to get options in this area immediately go to you guys. Talk about the outreach, and when it comes to these conversations to get the deals done for new partners, how does that go? And in terms of the outlook for the rest of the year, what's kind of the volume that you're expecting?
Yeah, so we have made a choice to invest in relationships, and we see business development and sales in this space as almost old school, right? It's not as digital. It's building relationships from the startup and building trust, because in this space, there hasn't been a lot of trust with suppliers or operators, right? And it's building trust both ways. So we have the largest sales force in cannabis. We have 72 salespeople. We have 7 folks here in Canada, the rest in the United States, 1 in Europe. And our goal is to build relationships with all the key players, right? If my sales team can build relationships, right, then it's on our product and on our R&D team to come out with the products and the needs. But most of our success comes from the relationships we have and hearing the same problems over and over again. We recently launched 2 new divisions that we made public on our last call, one being a partnership with CA Fortune, which is the largest retail and sales marketer or the third largest, to the typical market. So you're talking about Target and Whole Foods and Sprouts. And why did we do that? Well, we saw our partners transitioning into CBD and saying, hey, our problem is we can't get on shelves, right? We want to get in front of Whole Foods. We want to get in Whole Foods. And that's what CA Fortune does. So the combination of our knowledge and our ability to pick the right brands with CA Fortune's ability to take brands to market is a huge win for us, right? I mean, to be able to go to some of our brands and say, hey, guess what? CA Fortune represents Beyond Meat, and they represent you. That's pretty damn cool. Okay, and then the other initiative is equipment financing. We made public, and we're looking to soon be announcing our partnership there. But again, all of our partners and all of the relationships, the salespeople are saying, hey, man, these guys could do more if they could get more money. Well, we're not a lender from an equity perspective, but what happens if I told you could pull money out of your machines as collateral, and we'll offer a loan on your behalf? So the sales force drives our initiatives, and our relationships drive our initiatives.
Very interesting indeed. When it comes to the cannabis stock market this year, it's been a bit of a tough scene in Canada with some of the some of the results that have led to a big shift in investment. A lot of U.S. players are coming up a bit more, but in general, the stock market is taking a bit of a hit this year. From your point of view, obviously, you guys in the ancillary space and sort of working alongside the industry, how do you view the outlook for the stock market in general, and what are the things that you're staying in touch with investors in terms of here's our play, remember that we're a bit different, or how are you maintaining that attention from the investment partners?
Yeah, we are a little bit different, and actually we're a lot different. And when I talk to investors, whether it be institutional or retail, um, you know, want to make sure that I get across the fact that, hey, if you want exposure to the cannabis sector and you don't know who to pick, right? You don't know if Aurora is going to win or Canopy is going to win or GTI is going to win. Well, we have exposure to all these companies, right? So if Canopy is growing, or if GTI is growing, or if TrueLeaf is growing, right, we're going to grow too, because we have a lot of these customers, if not all of them, that are, some are bigger than others, obviously, and some buy more from us, but we have exposure to pretty much the entire industry. So it's a really nice way to play the space. When I look at the stock market in general, I think we're just correcting a little bit. I mean, we had some very lofty expectations and some valuations that were big, right? And that leads to very little margin for error, right? So when you have a company that's doing projections and then vape gets pushed back from October to December, that's a big thing, right? And I think the other thing is some of it's out of these companies' control. If regulation doesn't keep up and open enough retailers, well, then how do you expect these guys to sell and keep up with the revenue targets? And we're seeing that not only in the United States, but here in Canada, where we're seeing companies say, hey, I can grow more, I'm crushing it. The problem is I'm in all the retailers, and until I get another 1,000 retailers out there, what do you want me to do, right? So I think it's just a step in, this journey that we're on. But as far as an overall outlook, I'm as bullish as I could ever be on the space. We're still so incredibly young, and there's so much opportunity for companies to grow.
During your panel earlier today, you talked about how nobody's really mature yet in the industry. No matter the valuation, no matter the size of the operations, everybody in cannabis is still growing up. An early sign of at least early points of maturation has been some of these senior U.S. Listings that we've seen from cannabis players. In the past, we've talked a bit about KushCo's intentions with a potential listing like that. Can you give us an update in that aspect, and how encouraged are you by some other ancillary plays in reaching these exchanges, such as Akerna, I believe?
Yeah, we feel really good. And we continue to feel really good. I mean, there's only so much I can say on this, but we're continuing to push forward. We're continuing to lead the way in compliance, right? And we're also helping these exchanges and saying, hey, this is what you should look for in a compliance operator, because I think they were very complimentary of what we've put into place. So yeah, it's maturation on the compliance side that allows these businesses to list, right? And de-risking kind of that compliance allows you to be in NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange in their eyes, somebody that is free to market to that investor base. And right now we're continuing to put in and implement and show that we have implemented and are getting the results from putting in those type of procedures. And it would be really helpful if the rest of the space would get on board with some of these procedures.
For sure. Jason, thank you so much for your time today from the MJBizCon International event in Toronto. I'm Brian McGovern.